true like gateway beer, but I definitely would say that's like a gateway experience I had.
Nice. Yeah, I like what you said earlier when you said that, you know, our generation, because, yeah, I just turned 40 last year myself, so we definitely grew up in a time where craft beer was becoming a bigger thing, and obviously now it's like at an all-time high, but, you know, when we were growing up, it wasn't just the Coors Banquet or the Coors Light or the Bud or the Bud Light or, I mean, yeah, that's what our parents were drinking, but if you went to, you know, any liquor store, any grocery store, there was a lot other beer choices out there. So we did luckily grow up in a time where we could have choices when it came to what beer we did and didn't want to drink or try, or, you know, some of us weren't rule followers. And so we, under the age, tried to sneak as many as we could or try as many as we could. And so once you did get to that age, you were like, oh, okay, well, I know I don't like that, but let me try this one. Or, you know, obviously having a beer out of a can or a bottle is going to be different than on draft as well. So, you know, tasting it in different forms and ways was always kind of an interesting way of retrying or trying beers again for the first time.
Yeah, I think I think you definitely like hit the nail on the head with that. It just, you know, it was just a part of what we grew up with. And again, differently, not like our parents really didn't. You know, my mom drank MGD, right? Like,
Right.
my grandpa drank Milwaukee's Best. You know what I mean? It was like what they, you know, that's what they drank. So yeah, it was definitely, you know, having the different formats, seeing different labels, you know, not just it being some huge macro brand. So yeah, we always knew there was more choice out there, from a young age.
Yeah. Yeah, I know my mom she was a Bud Light drinker, or she was a Bud drinker, and then I would try it, and I was like, oh, no, thank you. I do not want this.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, those old commercials, bitter beer face, like those ones, definitely, I remember those, you know, watching the Super Bowl and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny now.
So,
I watch like UFC fights, and they have like the Bud Light and Budweiser decals, obviously for the sponsorship on the mat, and I'm like, are we still really pushing this? Like, there's no other beers out there that we want other people to try that they own, but okay, go for it.
okay, but you know, do what you do, I guess.
You know, that's what they want to do. So I did read that you had gone to Asheville, which is a city I've wanted to go to ever since I knew how many different breweries there were, and from what I hear, how beautiful it was out there. And then you moved back home and you started home brewing in Colorado. How did
Yep.
you decide to make that leap of, I enjoy this beer, I enjoy craft beer, let me try to do it myself and see if I can kind of put my spin and twist on it?
I think, you know, it was pretty organic, I guess. I don't know that it was like much of a leap. I mean, it does seem like it looking back on it, but like back then, you know, I got my degree in mathematics and I didn't really like, and I played college soccer, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. But I knew it had to kind of combine a couple of things that I was really enjoying. Like when I coached college soccer for a little bit, and it just didn't use enough of my like mathy, sciencey, you know, analytical brain,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the whole process. And like I kind of felt that way when I was thinking about grad school for math as well. Like that was just like too much of that and not enough like physical activity. You know, like I needed both things to kind of balance each other out. Like I wasn't able to like focus on one thing in that way. It's just not the way I'm built. Like I need some sort of, you know, activity to do while I'm thinking. Like it helps me balance those two things together. So, you know, when I started homebrewing, and it was funny, a really good friend of mine from high school, I had come back and he, you know, didn't really love his job, but so he had like a bunch of hobbies, and he's like, cool, yeah, like I'll help you with your hobby. And we like built this, you know, a manifold for home brewing. You know, I never even made like what is it, an extract batch. I only ever made like with malt and everything. Like I really enjoyed reading about it, and I'm a book kid. Like I love books. I love to this day. Like I love not like what is it, fiction. Like I like science books. And so like I bought all these books and I read, you know, John Palmer's How to Brew, and I like just really enjoyed like the sciencey aspect of it, plus like the creation part of it. And when I realized that I didn't have as much control as I wanted to, but I could see there were things about brewing that I loved, I was like, I'm just going to try to get a job at a homebrew, like a small brewery and see, like, if I learn more about it, if that's something that really will interest me as, like, possibility of a career. And the place that I had applied to, also had a homebrew store. So they actually ended up hiring me at the homebrew store and not as, like, a bartender like I thought. So I really got to, like, be a part of the process and, like, see what was happening in the brewery. And, kind of, part of our job was to kind of take these recipes from the brewery and kind of scale them downward to homebrew size. So, like, with that and with talking to the brewers and just, like, my general, I was single. I lived at home with my mom. Like, I didn't have anything to do. So I used to just hang out and at the brewery and, see what they were doing there. So it was pretty cool that I could see all these things. And that's kind of like, I wouldn't say as much of a leap because I was just working at a homebrew store, being a barista on the side, you know what I mean? I didn't really have like a clear focus about what I wanted to do. So it seemed as good of an option as any.
Right. And then I read that you then went off to work as a assistant at another brewery that, I'm not going to ask what happened, but apparently it wasn't the right fit for you and the person you left with. And then you guys went from there and then started what you guys have now. How was it that y'all decided after being at a place that, wasn't the right fit that, let's just do this on our own. Like, let's take that leap. Let's take that jump. I guess kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, it did not end well at the previous spot. And honestly, Bierstadt is built on pure hate fuel and retribution. Like it is built on the fire and anger of what had happened at the previous spot. It was built because we knew what we could do. We knew what kind of things, what kind of beers that we wanted to make. We knew, that we wanted to do it for ourselves and never be in a position where anyone could take it from us. And so honestly, it was built as a purely prove it to you that, we can do this and we're not done yet. So, it is everything that we were doing at the previous spot, but like on steroids. Like it went harder at it than we'd ever gone hard at anything before. We stopped making Hefeweizen and stopped making ales. Like I focused so severely on the one thing that we wanted to do and just basically just used the poor experience that we'd had before as the fire to get this done. We had nothing. I mean, when I say we had nothing, I mean, Bill and I had literally nothing. I mean, I remember, like trying to go grocery shopping, like having no money. Like we had absolutely nothing but an idea. And we somehow figured out a way to turn that into what we have now. And, I try not to, the place that we worked before, like I've come to terms with it, it's been a long time now, that I wouldn't have what we have now if we didn't have what we had then. It's really hard to think about that a little bit. I wouldn't have known the right things to do. We learned a ton from that experience about what not to do, how I wasn't going to design things, how we weren't going to treat people, how we weren't going to do things. And in that we found, got to go harder at the things we wanted to do. And so in that way, it was a really good, learning experience. It's hard to like kind of grow in that way, for something that affects you for so long, to realize that, without that, I don't have this. And because of that bad experience, the better this place is because of it. I wouldn't have had the confidence necessarily to do some of the things that we did, without that experience, knowing that we could do it better. So, it's hard to like get to that point, and we are at that point, and I try not to think about the other place too much, but, yeah, without that, we don't have this, and I'm really super proud of what we're doing, at Bierstadt. So,
I mean, as you should be. You guys have been open as long as you have, and like you said, it kind of came off it's a middle finger to them not treating you properly. And, but like you said, you guys wouldn't have what you have now if it wasn't for that bad experience. So as much as, we all wish bad experiences don't happen to people, but sometimes a lot of good comes out of those experiences as well.
Absolutely.
I've had this thought for a while, and some brewers have kind of, kind of said, yes, that's kind of where things are going. But when it comes to beer in the brewery scene, like it's a pendulum. We've hit full tilt at one point. Here in the DFW Metroplex, we have a place that we love very much, but they also try the most craziest fucking beers on the planet, whether it be ranch pizza or their pickle beer that ended up being like the most popular one, and there was like 8 of them now. But they also make incredible stouts, incredible IPAs. Their lagers are even good. So, there's always a fine line of, whether it be the hype or not. But I feel like we're coming back to where lagers are becoming king again because of the fact that if you're a true brewer, you can't hide anything in it. It takes longer. And I've heard this from other brewers as well. If they go to other breweries, one of the first things they're going to try is the lager, because if you're not making a good lager, then the rest of your beers are probably going to be shit too. So is that kind of the thought process you have as well? Because, obviously you love the lagers and, you built a whole brewery around it. Do you kind of feel that way in the beer scene as well?
I think that, hopefully I answer your question right. I think that first of all, I think that lager in this space is kind of having a moment, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of this is focused on tap room and things like that. And you need people to drink more than one beer while they're there. Really, it's just, it's kind of simple as that, right? And we've kind of, it's become so niche in some way, as far as pickle beer or whatever it is, that there's only a certain size crowd that is going to enjoy or consume that, right? And if this industry is going to grow at all, we need to access different people. And lagers on, I say it lots, but lagers on a 200-year winning streak, and majority of people are drinking lager, you know what I mean? The majority of people out there. So it's about having access to a new set of people. And, I think for a little while, and I think it's gotten much better for a little while, that it's not just a throwaway beer anymore. It used to be if I can get them to drink this beer, this, lager or Kolsch or blonde ale, then I can get them to drink real beer after that. And so I think in that way it's come back. There's been a more respect towards it from a brewer's perspective, where they're not just trying to be once you drink this, then you'll finally start, then you're on your way to drinking IPAs, real craft beer. And I think it's okay that we don't have, there was a brewery around here for a while, I don't want to name it, but it used to have named after slopes, beers, slope, ski slopes. So this is the green, it's easy, right? And this is the blue, and this is the, black, and the double black diamond. And that's this is simple and easy and for the inexperienced. And this is for, that there's a way that you're trying to achieve something. And it doesn't have to be that you're trying to achieve something. Sometimes that's where you're going to stop. And that doesn't mean that you're not know a lot about it, or that you aren't, reaching your full potential by, just simply sticking with, lager or pale ale or blonde ale. Sometimes that's all the further the journey needs to be.
Right.
So I think it's getting more respect in that realm to understand that somebody wants to come here and drink a few of these, and I'm not necessarily just trying to get them to now drink our IPA. At the end of the day, the goal is much more, the goal is not what it used to be, if that makes sense.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
No, yeah, it does. Well,
cool.
I feel like that's a weird, thought process of okay, I got them to drink a lager. Now I'm going to get them up to an IPA, or I'm going to get them to a stout or whatever. It's everyone has such a distinct flavor that, and most people, if they're making IPAs, they don't just make the one. They make, a cornucopia of different varieties when it comes to IPAs. So, and each one of those is going to have a different taste profile too. And then again, your taste buds are going to be different than my taste buds, who are going to be different than whoever else were around's taste buds. So